Hello, welcome back to the Faces of Truth, where we're attempting to make America think again. My name's Alexander McCauley. This week, we're going to be talking about mass shootings and engineered tragedy. I did a presentation on engineered tragedy versus hoax a few months ago, but this is really important because it's being used to take our ability to protect ourselves away from us. How does engineered tragedy work? In the CIA, there was a program between the late 50s and late 70s called MK Ultra, where they were literally attempting to figure out how to turn a human being into a biological robot that could perpetrate, say, an assassination on cue without having any recollection of him or her perpetrating the murder. MK Ultra was shut down by the United States CIA, but not before they perfected the protocol for making these biological robots to the point that they could have an operative within the influence of any person that they picked that could break that person within a few months. We need to realize school shootings have accelerated since Barack Hussein Obama was elected. There was one or two during the Bush administration. I think the first school shooting may have been perpetrated in Columbine during the Clinton administration. I'm not sure that I got my time period right on that one. So if you want to correct me, go ahead and do it in the comments. But all of these mass shootings, including the ones that have not been on schools, have similarities. The perpetrator doesn't even know that they've killed. Often, the perpetrator kills themselves. Often, the perpetrator starts spouting things that their fellow classmates or the people that they're shooting are surprised to hear them spout. They wouldn't have thought that that particular person would have said anything like that. They have become a monster that was not the person that they had associated with before. This is the sign of a Manchurian candidate. A Manchurian candidate, a biological robot, is basically a human that has had, through extreme abuse, torture, and drug administration, their consciousness severed into 3 partitions, at least. This phenomena is known as dissociative identity disorder. The dominant identity is an innocuous identity of something that, or a person that gets along famously with everyone or is a recluse. No one really knows what's going on. The Manchurian Candidate, the robot consciousness, is an external consciousness introduced into them through these procedures of breaking. And it will do anything that it is ordered to without the main consciousness knowing anything about it. And the third identity, the third consciousness, is the consciousness of the individual, where all of the memory of the conditioning process is kept. Let's go to this recent shooting in St. George, I believe it was. I don't know what date, but the shooter was found among his victims, wounded by his own hand, when he was acting on his programming to terminate himself after terminating and wounding several of his fellow classmates and teachers. The pain from the self-inflicted wound threw him out of his trance state. It threw him out of his robot mode. And he didn't know what he'd just done. Same thing happened with the Florida shooter. Except his programming wasn't strong enough to help to push him to actually commit suicide. And he ended up switching back and realizing what he'd done. Through cultural aberration, such as the politically correct culture and the LGBT movement, drag queen story time, sexualization of children, misdiagnosis of drugs, especially psychotropics. The CIA has literally taken hostage of our new generations. We see the rise in protests of groups like Antifa, which state they are against fascism, and yet they beat people to a pulp that are actually fighting fascism. We see women who have lost their natural affection toward their children and the opposite sex, the other gender, men. We see whole generations that are sterilized psychologically, being conditioned that they are attracted to the same sex. This is through chemical and psychological means that these things are being perpetrated on us by our intelligence community. Thank you. We need to prosecute these people, get them out of government, get them out of influence in our intelligence infrastructure, and if possible, shut down intelligence entirely. Get back to where we no longer have people, civilians, licensed to kill. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. This material needs to get out. Nobody needs to give up their guns. The CIA and the FBI need to quit abusing our children and our citizens in order to make these robots. Thank you very much. See you next week.